Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here and I am back. Back. And yes, you guys gave me too much time off. I just got busy doing other things and just, it's hard to get back into it after you've had a run with Christmas and, New Year's. And so yeah, it was a little hectic, but I am back now and ready to get going. So today is our Techniques Tuesday. Yay! And we are doing a book binding. It's a tab binding is what I've decided to do for my Happy Mail envelopes. So for those of you that are familiar with Happy Mail, I've just got, I must have about 60 in total. So I have my work cut out for me, that's for sure. Yes, Lori, yours is right on the top here. But we'll get to see everybody's. I have marked out all of the addresses on these so I don't have to worry. So I've chosen tab binding because when I first thought about it, I was going to put them together like signatures and stick them inside. But then you would see the front of somebody's envelope with their name on it. And when you got to the other end, you wouldn't know whose that was unless you went back and forth and figured it out. And I just thought with all of the bulk, with all of the items that people have added into the envelopes, I just felt that it would really alligator, although these are going to alligator, that's for sure. But again, it was just something that would make it look wider and wider. And so I felt I really wanted them to sort of be stacked, one on top of each other, to give it a more squared off, type of look, right? Like a book. So I did research. I was going to do the Midori style, but then I thought, no, then I'd need a really wide book depending on the size of the signatures. Although, I may go back and do a couple Midori style. But again, I would have had to do an individual signature thread for each one, like even though it was an elastic where you could take it in and out. I could maybe put two into the same one, but I really wanted to focus on just one person's envelope at a time because, that's the whole point, is that they've created this piece of art for me. So I want to know who it's from. So again, this is why I was looking for alternative methods. And I hadn't done tab binding. I understand the concept. I just didn't find that it worked or was something I wanted to do until I saw Marguerite Miller's tutorial. I really enjoyed how she put her Christmas journal together. I'm going to link to her channel below, and I hope you guys will all go and look at her channel. It is not for the faint of heart. You have to constantly be thinking about what you're doing. And so she's done a few things that she kind of left for you to figure out. So there are some things that I tweaked and changed a little bit. But I really honestly recommend that you watch her video as well, maybe even first. Just to get a better idea of what it is we're doing. Now, because I've done things a little bit different, I hope you'll come back and finish watching mine if you start out with hers. But yeah, I have done a few things differently to accommodate these envelopes. And, I'm still figuring this out. So, I'm probably going to make a few mistakes as we go along. But by the time I'm done all my books, they will be perfect. So I've started with 10 envelopes. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's upside down. I think no, it's not. Okay. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, 10 envelopes. I think that one is upside down. Now that I think about it. No, it's not. I just opened it the wrong way. That's right. Now I remember. So I'm going to, first of all, reopen this one. This is Brenda Clark's envelope. It was my fault. I opened it the wrong way. And so I'm going to reopen it here. Now you can see I'm just taking a very fine hair off of here. And I'm going to put it together with some washi tape, and then I will reinforce it after it's all put together. So I'm just going to had some washi tape on the outside here. And pull it back this way. Okay, so now all my envelopes should be facing the right way. And she is open that way. Okay, so I'm just going to double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one is the right way. 7. I'm putting Brenda's back in. 8, 9, and 10. So yeah, so I've got them all opening from the top where the return address was, because I didn't want to hide that. I didn't want it to be down here in the signature and possibly covered. So I wanted to make sure all the envelopes were open on the top and the 2 sides. So this is actually how the book will sit. So you will open it up and you'll see the name first and then all of the stuff inside. There's the name and all of the stuff inside. So the other thing that I went back and did is I went and trimmed off any rough edges, because at first I wasn't cutting them perfectly careful, and some of them I was using an envelope opener to open them, and they were getting a little shaggy. And then also sometimes when you went to open them after you've slid it open, there were some spots where they were glued. So maybe you tore a little piece. Like for myself, I was finding that the sides were sticking out. So I was going back and just trimming them off just to make sure that they were nice and square looking, and that there were no flippy things sticking out. So that was the second thing I did. And then after that, I kind of went by which was the largest envelope. And in this case, it's this red one at the back here. So I measured it for the length. Now, my suggestion is that you work in either, whether you work in centimeters or inches, you work in exact measurements. So this envelope is the largest of the envelopes, and it is not quite 8.5 inches. So I cut my covers to 9 inches, and I'm going to go back to that in a minute. So I knew that this was the largest envelope at just under 8.5. So I went to 9. But this is going to change, depending on whose envelopes you have, how many you have, what size. So always go by your largest envelopes. And in this case, 8.25. So now I'm cutting my covers to be 9 inches, but we also have to go by the widest. So in this case, they were all pretty much the same. This one here is the widest. And so this one is 5.5, well, just a little bit better, 5.58, about 5 5/8. So again, I went to 6 just to have nice, square, even numbers to work with. So 9 inches by 6 inches is how I'm cutting my cardboard. Now, I'm going to put this back here to the back here. I kind of set them up so that there was a larger one in the front and a larger one in the back, so that they would kind of look even enough. So 9 inches by 12 inches. So that is what I cut my cardboard to. When I cut it, I just used a chipboard. I had some, I think these were the back of scrapbook, when you get a scrapbook pad, this was the back covered. But you could use cereal boxes, you could use cardstock glued, doubled up and glued. There's a variety of things that you can use to create. Cereal boxes are, of course, the best next to chipboard if you have it. So then I just cut a piece of paper to glue down on the inside. So these are my inside covers. I'm not decorating the outside until the end, and I'll explain that as we go along. So these are the inside covers, and as you can see, I've sewn the edges around here. It's not, you don't have to sew around the edges. Like if you saw on the outside here, I sewed them. You don't have to. I just do it. I glue it and then I sew it. Then I know that there's nothing picky coming up. But if you just glue them down, you can also glue some tissue paper or napkins or just lightweight paper around to finish off the edges, just to collage over top of the edges. My thought process is that I wanted to put fabric on here on the outside covers. So this is the inside. I will come along probably later and glue some pockets on here to tuck some of the other items into it. But that is an option that I'm going to decide later. So once I've glued the paper down and stitched around it, I'm left with those threads. You know, there's 2 threads from when you start, and then as you get around to the other end and you finish sewing, there's 2 threads at the other end. So what I like to do with my threads, and I'm just going to separate them here into the front and back. Sorry, not the front and back, but the first and second one. I can. That's the 2 fronts and backs. And now my starting one and my ending one. Not that it really matters too much. Okay, so I'm going to work from this side so you can see a little bit better, I hope. Once I have my 2 ends from where I ended or started my sewing, I tie them in a knot, a double knot. And this way you won't have these ugly threads showing afterwards. And then I'm going to tie this other one as well. Okay, so this way you know your threads are secure. They're not, you're not gonna have these little bits coming out. I don't do that all the time for like my tags and journal cards, but I like it to be nicely finished for my book covers. So I'm taking a little bit of a glue stick and I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue in this corner, and I'm taking the threads and I'm just gonna cut them short and just slip them into the glue. So now I don't have any rough edges here. I hope you can see that. And I've just glued into the corner, knowing that I'm going to cover this up anyway. So all the strands are contained. I don't have a little piece sticking out. That's just me. I don't know if that's something you want to do or not, but I just thought I'd show you how my method and my madness. So once my 2 covers are done, and this one is already glued. I think I wanted it this way, yeah. So there's my back inside cover and my front cover. So this is how it will open up, and that's what you will see when we get going. And then when you get to the end, that is what you'll see at the other end. So the covering part, I'm not going to worry about right now. But if you hold all of this together, you can see that it fits well within the outside edges of the journal covers, and it's well within the top and bottom. And so we are ready to get started. Okay, so I'm just going to hold this cover out for now, and this is what we're going to work with. Because we're tab binding, we're going to be using, in this case, I'm going to be using some 1-inch wide strips of fabric. I have 10 pages and 2 covers. That's 12 pages. I'm doing 5 tabs for 2 pages, which means if you take the 12 pages, divide it by 2, that gives you 6 pieces or 6 sets. Yeah, it's that math thing, right? And so 6 sets times 5, I need 30 squares. Now I've already pre-cut some, so I could spare you all the cutting. I'm just going to shut this glue. And they're all piled up here. But what I did is I cut a long 1-inch strip. Now you don't have to pre-figure out what you need. I mean, you can cut as you go. It's just for me, I just wanted to have them ready to go so that I could start working right away. So what I did is I cut a 1-inch strip. And if you ever try to measure with a ruler every time to cut these, you're going to end up with some that are larger, some that are smaller. You know, if you try to measure it on your board here, it's just going to be a constant headache to make 30 or 50, depending on the size of your book that you're making. So once I cut it into 1-inch strips and I measured, and I know that this is a 1-inch wide strip, I double checked it. Then I made myself a little template, just this little cardboard piece. And I hold it onto the strip with my thumb, and then I cut along the strip. This way, I know that they're pretty much all the same size. Now, some people will take a ruler and you know, their rotary cutter and cut them. I just find that then you need more space, then you need to be accurate. This way, I know that they're pretty close, and I have a guide, and it's fast and easy. And I only have to cut what I need as I go along. So that is my idea that I'm using for this. So it's entirely up to you if you want to do something else, but this worked well for me. So the idea is to, and I'm just going to put this back now, to have 5 tabs, but 3 of them will bind one page, and then 2 of them will bind the next page, and then it'll go in reverse. So you'll have a total of 5 tabs running across a combination of 2 pages. And I know it sounds putsky and complicated at this point. It's really not. I would suggest again that you watch Marguerite's video as well. But I know that, you know, if I'm gluing, you know, it's easy to be out you know, an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch. So I wanted to give myself a little bit of room, because when I watched her doing hers were pretty tight so that they were touching. And I thought, you know, it's so easy to make a little mistake. And then that kind of throws you off quite a bit. So I really wanted to have a little bit of space in between. Okay. So in order to do that, I designed my template a little bit differently than hers. And, you know, I again want you to watch hers as well. I took a 9-inch strip of cardstock, just scrap of paper cardstock that I had sitting around. And so it is 9 inches long. Now, because these envelopes inside are all different sizes, you need to have something that is exact to work with, which is why I said working in straight inches or straight centimeters is probably the best and easiest way to go. So we need to find the halfway point of 9 inches. It's not too bad to find, right? It's 4.5. 4.5 inches. So 4.5 inches. So here is the halfway point. So that is your center. Okay. So when you're doing your first inch is going to be lined up. The center of the first inch or the first tab is going to be lined up, centered with your halfway point. So this way, it doesn't matter how wide or how narrow your envelopes are, as long as you aren't wider than your widest envelope. You should, I mean, wider than your smallest envelope. And I know I'm kind of all over the place right now. It'll make sense, I promise, very soon. Okay, here's one of my smaller ones. So the smallest envelope here is it's pretty much 7 inches wide. So I really don't have to worry that it's too small to do this method. So once you've found the halfway point, this is where your first inch is going to sit. Your first tab is going to sit there. So I'm just going to put a tab there just to remind us. And because this is a 4.5, I'm lining the 1/2 inch up here, and I'm going to measure where that first inch is. I'm actually going to make it a little bit longer. Okay, so that is the first inch, or the first tab where it's going to sit. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted to leave a little bit of space. Can you, you know what? I'm going to work on the cardboard because I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to see. So here's the first tab where it's going to sit. So once I have that first space, I need to fit in 5 more. Sorry, this is stuck together here. Why is it stuck together? Oh, here we go. So there's the 5. Not quite, but almost. So because I don't want them to be this close, that tight, because then it gives you room for error. This way you have a little bit of wiggle room. So now that I know where the first one is, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to measure out 1/8 of an inch, which on my ruler is 2 of these little lines, because each one is 1/16 of an inch. So I'm going to measure out where that is. Okay, I hope you can see that, where I've measured it out. And now I'm going to just color it in with my pen. And then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line it up to the edge of that, and I'm going to measure 1 inch. So that's my next tab. Then I'm going to measure from the line on my ruler 1/8 of an inch, which is 2 spots. And I'm going to color that in. And then move the ruler over and measure 1 inch again. And now I know that this sits in the center. Sorry, this one sits in the center. And this one will line up here, and this one will line up here. So I have a little bit of space in between for error. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing on this side. I'm going to measure where the 1/8 is, and color that in. I mean, you can use a felt marker, you can use whatever you have. And then I'm going to go 1 inch from there, from the edge, the outside edge. And that is my next tab. And then I'm going to measure 1/8 of an inch from there. I think I went a little bit over here, but. And then 1 inch from the end of that tab. Okay, so now you can see, I hope this makes sense. This is the center of the middle tab. So then I have 1 inch, a 1/2 inch on either side of that. That's the first 1 inch. Then I have a space, then I have an inch, then I have a space, then I have an inch. It's same with on this side. I think this one looks a little bit off, doesn't it? I'll have to remeasure that. No, it's actually even. It's just an illusion, I think. Yep, just an illusion. I think I went a little bit over, and it's actually there, but I can see it for myself. So this is my guide now, and I know that no matter where the envelope is, it will fit in between the journal cover. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. If not, please watch Marguerite's. So I know now that this is where all my tabs should line up to. And you can see there's a little, room for error. It's not 100%. but you should be able to see all of the tabs with the space in between. And I'm just going to lift that up so you can see how it's looking. Okay. So then I have all my envelopes here. And this is the first one here, the cover. And I think I have to turn this around. Yes, I have to turn it around. Because this is the front. So you're going to have to constantly remind yourself about that. Where the person's name is, that's the front, the top corner. So now I've got this guide to line up to my cover. And I'm lining it up approximately a half an inch, approximately, because my tabs are all 1 inch. So I'm lining it up about a half an inch from the edge, and I'm going to glue down 3 tabs. Now I don't need all of these to be here underneath, so I'm just going to move them over. So about a half an inch-ish. And I'm going to put 3 tabs. I'm going to do number 1, number 3, and number 5. And I'm just putting a little bit of glue here. So you can see where my glue is. Close this for a second, and I'm going to take my tab and rest it here into the glue. Now you may have to go back and touch up a little bit here and there if you haven't lined it up or matched your glue up with the edges. You may have to wipe a little bit away. And I now have my first three tabs. So if you've glued down the 3 tabs, your next one is going to only have 2 tabs, because remember I said it was 5 between 2 pages. So there's the first 3. I'm going to flip this over this way. And now I'm going to take my first envelope. Now, you can see this envelope is not as big as the journal cover. So first I have to find the center of this envelope approximately. Now, how I did that is, I know, like, I'm lined up on a grid, but you can make your own grid on paper if you want, or you can measure. It's not that hard of a thing to do. So you could take your ruler and say, okay, this one is a half an inch from the edge there and approximately a half an inch from the edge there. So that's pretty close to the center. So I'm just going to slide this down about a half an inch. And this time I'm going to put glue on number 2 spot and number 4 spot. So taking my glue, I'm just going to rest some in here or dribble some in between. And I'm going to take my next tab and so you can sort of see that there's a little bit of space in between each one, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfectly lined up. As long as they have that space in between, then the pages will be able to move back and forth quite easily. And so then I've lined up to the edge of the guide. And now my 2 tabs are glued down to page number 2. And I'm going to flip this over. And it is between those 2 there. I might move that just over just ever so slightly. And now the first 3 tabs I'm going to glue down. So the first 3 tabs that I did from the first page, from the journal cover, are the ones I put the glue on, not number 2 and number 4. And it's approximately, I mean, you can just kind of eyeball to see where it sits. And flip that and glue onto that one. Flip that up and glue it down. And flip that one up and glue it down. Okay. Phew. Always nerve-wracking, isn't it? Okay, I'm going to take the next envelope, which is envelope number 3, or page number 3. So page 1 had 3 tabs, page 2 had 2 tabs. So this one is going to have 3. Same thing. I line this up approximately so that you can see where the journal is, or you can use the guide too, so that there's, you know, about the same size. It's not going to, I wouldn't worry about it being too perfect, because it's still within the edges of the journal, and no matter where you put your tabs now, they're going to be in between to fit, because we've given a little bit of wiggle room either way. So it's not going to be off as far as being over your edges of your journal or look out of line. It'll still fit. So I'm kind of finding where the center is. I think that's pretty close, maybe a little bit. I'm going to move it just a tad down like that. Okay, so you can see the space over here is about the same size as the space here. So it's pretty even. So again, I'm going to pull it down about a ½ inch. And I'm going to put glue on spot number 1, number 3, and number 5. One, 3, and 5. So you can see where I've marked out that 1 inch, that this is fitting in there. And then the center one. And this one is has lots of loose threads there. Okay, and number 3. Okay, so I'm going to move this out of the way. Oh, I had a bunch there. Okay, any excess glue that's sticking out, I'm just going to wipe away with my finger a little bit. And now I'm going to flip it over on top of this one, and we know that it's within the right spots, but you're not going to glue the ones you just did. You're going to take the ones that have the 2 tabs. So instead of the 3, because we just glued those down, you're going to take the 2 tabs to grab this envelope. So now putting the glue on the tab, and then squish. I'm going to squish it down just a little bit. I don't want to squish it down too much because I do want some extra space. Otherwise it will alligator. So I'm leaving a little bit of space. Oop, shifted just a little bit. Okay. Taking my next envelope. So it's very important to always have them in the right direction. This is one from Caroline. Hi, Caroline. So again, we're going to sort of line it up using the guide and So there's the guide, but now we want this envelope to be sort of close. And you can kind of, if you've got a grid like this, you can kind of tell by where the grid lines are at the bottom of the envelope here, if you can see that. So I'm just going to move it over just ever so slightly. And that's how I know where the center is now, because these edges line up with the journal cover. And the edges here where the envelope isn't, you can sort of see that they're kind of the same size. I'm just over just ever so slightly. And it's also buckling a little bit because, you know, this has got some thickness, so it's, you know, it's not quite going to the end because it's going around the envelope. But as long as it's reasonably close, like I said, we've left some wiggle room here by adding the spaces in between. So we just finished doing the 2, so we're going to do now number 2 and 4 again, because the next one to be glued down will be the 3s, you know, 1, 3, and 5. So here I'm just going to slide this down and put glue between 2 and 4. I hope this is making sense, that it doesn't sound like mud. I think between myself and Marguerite, you might be able to figure out what I'm doing here. It is easy to get mixed up. Yeah, because this envelope had 3, and so this next one you only do 2. And I did mix one up, and I had to take it apart. Because I've already put one book together, and I will show you that book later on. Okay, so now I can take this off, flip this over, but now we're gluing 1, 3, and 5. So I'm going to put glue on the tabs 1, 3, and 5. Now you can do this with less tabs. You should work with odd numbers instead of even numbers. Well, I mean, you could work with even numbers. I think it depends on your own personal taste. But I think if you work with, if you're working with 3, you're going to have 2 to glue and then 1 to glue, 2 to glue. So then you might want to make them a little bit wider instead of just 1 inch wide, unless you're making a smaller book. So again, I'm leaving a little bit of room. I'm pressing it down, but I still want to leave a little bit of room for expansion. So I'm not pressing down super tight. I'm just putting enough to hold it so that when I glue this envelope or this tab up, it's going to leave me a little bit of space. So there'll be a little tiny bit of space between the 2 envelopes. Even though you can't see it, it's just to kind of level this off a bit. And putting the glue on this one, or pushing this one up, sorry. And then same with this one. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so then the next envelope. So I'm going to do this next one with you as well, and then I'm going to stop the camera and I'm going to do them all until I get to the end. Okay, so putting this back, I'm trying to square it off and square this off at the same as the journal itself. And so now I want to look at this envelope and just adjust it a little bit so that I know where the center is. And now I'm going to bring it back so that I have about a 1/2 inch showing, and I'm going to do tabs 1, 3, and 5. So it's opposite each time. Now you could put the glue right on the tab itself, but I just find it's easier to hold all this in place and then just bring the tabs over after onto the glue. And this one has a few threads. Even if you take them apart and take all the threads off, you'll still have some that come back. or come off as you're doing this. Okay, and there is the third one. Okay, so now I can take my guide off, flip this over, holding it firmly but not too tight, and now I'm going to do the glue on number 2 and number 4. Now I'm just using a white tacky glue. You can use your fabric glues, your art glitter glue, whatever you have. And just pressing that into place. Flipping that up and pressing it into place. Okay, I am going to stop the camera and continue working on this until I have all the envelopes done except for the cover. So I will shut this off. I'll be right back. Okay, everyone, I'm back. I've just put the 3 tabs on the last envelope, and then I'm going to do my back cover. So I'm going to, now that they're glued down, I'm going to flip this over, move the guide out of the way. And glue the 2 in between because this one had 3. So I'm gluing 2 and 4. Okay, it is a bit of an alligator mouth, but I will explain that in a second. And here is my back cover. So this is going to sit like this. So I'm just going to now glue the last 2 tabs. Cut a couple of extra only because I was showing you how to cut them, but that's okay. I've got many more books to put together. All right, so now I know that this is the same size as the front cover, so I don't have to worry so much about lining that up with the rest of the book because it's the exact same spot. And so just 1/2 inch down, I'm going to now put glue on number 2 and number 4. So I hope this has made sense as to where I'm putting the glue by showing you on the guide where the glue is supposed to be, because I've just pulled it back enough to still see where my tabs are supposed to be. It's one of those things that you also have to play for yourself, you know, and practice. I would do some bookbinding with just blank pages. Maybe you're going to just make a blank journal. That might be a fun way to practice how to do this. Okay, so lifting this guide out of the way now. And I want to make sure that these line up pretty good. So what I did first is I kind of did a shuffle down on that side. And a shuffle on this side to make sure that they're lined up. Because now you have 5 tabs. You have the one, okay, this has moved a little bit on me here. You have the one, the 3 from the last page, and then you have the 2 that you just did for this journal. So they're really going nowhere, but it's just to create the look that they're all the same. And then you end with the 5. Putting the glue there and there. This one seems a little bit tight. I might have shifted this a little bit. Which makes sense because these ones aren't going anywhere. They're just on the other side of the book. So they would be a little bit longer than this one, these ones. Okay, and while I've got the book together here, I'm just going to make sure that these are lining up pretty good. Oh, I see this one's lifting a little bit here. Just catch that a little bit more. And the book is now put together, but it is wet, so I have to be careful with how much pressure I put on the journal itself. So now you can see all of the tabs. So we started out with the 3 and then 2. I probably didn't have to actually put these last 2 on there, but I just wanted it on there just for the final look. Again, it's the 3 that are holding the last one together, so I really didn't need the 2, except that it looks nice. So there you see it. Now, if you look closely, and you probably won't notice it so much on my journal, you can almost see where it's like a figure 8, where it's 2 separate, then 1 together, 2 separate, 1 together, 2 separate, and vice versa. So now I just have to let this sit and dry, and I have a couple of options for how I can do my cover. My first thought was I was just going to glue a fabric piece on top of here, or paper, or whatever it is that you want to use to decorate. You could collage on here. You can glue fabric. You can glue other papers, or a combination of everything in between. But I found that even though it's all bound, and in some cases you may want this binding to show, I don't really want it to show. I kind of like it hidden. So now I will show you my other book. I've got it here. Where did I put it? I'm so crowded here. So this was my first journal that I did, and it's the same thing. It is bound with the tabs in between. You can see them. This one is dry now, but I've completely covered the spine. This is also a lot thinner, I see, but I've completely covered the spine with the fabric. And all I did was and I'm not finished decorating this one yet. All I did is I glued the fabric down here onto the front cover, and then I wrapped it around and glued first to hold it in place on this side, and then continued on to the rest of the page, gluing it all down with a hot glue gun and tacky glue. I used tacky glue kind of drizzled in between, and hot glue around all of the edges. So then once I got it completely wrapped around, I went back. Here, I'm just going to take these off. These are Thelma's, and I'll explain that in a second. I went back and trimmed the fabric around. So it still has a bit of a rough edge, like an unfinished edge, if you can see along the edges here. And this spine does gape open, so you can see the fabric that you can actually go down here. I probably could have glued it a little bit better, but this was my first one. But I'm not entirely disappointed with it. If you open it up, it does lay flat as you go along, and I can look at all of the pages and see both sides of the envelope, and I know who it's from. In this case, this one is from Sally, And then there's a Thelma envelope. Now, Thelma has a lot of embellishments on some of her pieces. So I wanted to figure out the best way to display her items. And I will either collage inside here or write some stuff down. But I thought in this case here, this is another one of her embellishments. I really like this envelope that she's made. And so I'm going to use it as part of the cover once I've decorated the edges, because I don't know quite yet what I'm going to do. And you will see a final flip through when I'm done with all of my books. Well, not all, because I'm hoping that I'm going to keep getting them. But I will glue this down so that when I open the envelope or the cover up, this will be like a flip out. And then this one here is a policy envelope, and it does have a magnet in there, but it's not strong enough to go through the whole book cover, but I really thought it looked nice up on top here. So I'm just going to paper clip it in place. Now the envelope did have this little pink card on the inside of it, but it just made it so bulky. And then I thought, well, I won't be able to see it that easily. So now this will hold this, well, this will be glued down anyway. And I will probably either add it inside here once I'm done, or go back and play with it on her page. But I just left it inside here for now. So I'm just going to give it a quick flip through. This is Barbara Sijarto. Did I say that right? Sijarto. So she had this envelope here. I had to trim hers down a little bit because it was really large. But then on the inside, she had made these pockets, which I really love. And there's some goodness inside and some other stuff. This one comes from Sally. So you can see all of her stuff on the inside. And I'm going to play around with this a lot more yet. I'm just getting started. Thelma's, lots of room for journaling in here and adding other goodness in here. And then this is Brenda Clark, and she gave me a little pocket. So this might get glued down eventually once I get going. So you can see this is from April. Mama Juju. Love that name. And then this one is from Nikki the dog, Patricia. And this opens up. I was able to salvage her flap. And then all the goodness that's inside, just yummy. And she had given me a paper clip, so the paper clip is holding these other items in here. I get to have this and go through it all the time, so it's a lot of fun. Ariel, this is her envelope. Lots of goodness inside. She's got some handmade paper in here. Love these. This one is from Karen Talbot, also known as Fit Kitty, or I call her Miss Kitty. And lots of goodness. Do you think she likes cats? I don't know. You think? And then I have one here from Hazel Annika Designs. Hazel's also a collaborator in this. The same with Thelma. And lots of goodness in here. A beautiful envelope. Then I have this one from Tammy Nickerson. Hers was also a large envelope. I had to really shim it down just a little bit. I didn't want to take away from her name, of course. And then she had done some double-sided tape on the inside. I'm just going to turn that over. She had done some double-sided tape, and it was still a little bit sticky, so I used washi tape to cover it up. That's the only reason I have that washi tape on here. And then here's the back of the book. So I have room to add some pockets. And then once I do, I think that will help to spread this out a little bit. And it will most likely just be tied with some sari ribbon. But I will further decorate it. So you will get to see the finished book eventually. And same with this. Once this is completely dry, I don't want to overhandle it right now. So once it's completely dry, I will start to decorate this one and hopefully finish the rest of them over the next few weeks. And I can have them all on display in my studio. So I hope this wasn't, you can see a little bit more now that it's drying. I can hold it a little differently. So you can see the tab binding. To me, I'm not fond of it as a finished binding. which is probably why I've never done this style, but I don't mind it as a way to put these pages together. In fact, like I said, when I tell you to practice just doing paper, I think I would like to do a couple of paper journals with the tabs just to see how it is with things that are all even. And the only thing is that you're limited to how much stuff you can add in if it's all bound together already. The other thing that I've thought about is maybe to use paper, and maybe instead of just folding it in half, I might fold it so that there's a little bit of a score or a gap. So maybe, you know, if you have a 1-inch piece of paper, you might score it at 3/8 of an inch and then another 3/8 of the inch on the other side. I would do like long strips all at once. And then this way you have a little bit of a kind of a space so that you can allow for building. That's a thought process, but you know, I'm not 100% that would work. But I'm satisfied with this, but it will not be the finished binding for me. That's just my personal choice. But it's not to say I wouldn't do it in other journals depending on how they are put together, but these are going to be chunky monkeys, and so I love all of this goodness in here. I will flip through this one again, but just a quick thing. Lori Kaler, this is her envelope, love it. Ann Alba, I have Alba Warren, I have 2 from her, but I'm trying to put just 1 in each book when I have 2. Caroline Jensen is another collaborator in this, and lots of goodness in here. And hers I've already started to collage and put things together to display. I love this. This was a piece of paper that she had inside to hold all of her goodness, and I just added it as another flip and then made a pocket here, so there's lots of room to add more stuff in. Nancy Bissett, lots of hers has, I was able to salvage the flap. And so I have some goodness in here upside down, I see. And I will fix that up, Nancy. But this is kind of fun too, because I can still add something on to this flap and have another flip out. Thelma, and here's another one of her tags. So this might end up on the outside of the book or in one of the pockets, because there's a large bead here and the heart, so it causes a little bit of gap, but actually this book isn't bad, so maybe it'll still be able to stay. She's got lots of goodness inside, and a little journaling notebook, and one of her paper clips that she makes. Lovely. Brenda Clark, another collaborator, so is Thelma. So here's her envelope. Oh, did I put it in upside down? That's the problem. Okay, I'm gonna have to fix that, Brenda. I already used everything and glued it all down and decorated. That's probably why I did it, had it the other way. And then I went and cut it and redid it. So I'm going to have to redo that again. But I can fix it. So yeah, that one, and that explains a lot there. And then this one is Hope Smith, and hers too. I was able to save the flap, but I see I have a little bit of a repair to do there, but lots of goodness inside here, and I don't want to show everything because there's a personal note there. And then this one is Patricia and Nikki the dog. So again, lots of goodness inside. Just Brenda's envelope I gotta fix up. Sorry, Brenda. This one comes from Marie, a friend of mine, Marie Barnaby, and personal note. And then this is Vicki Carlton, and lots of goodness and a personal note in there. So I am going to enjoy these to the maximum. I see I've put a little bit of pressure on this glue, so I will have to probably fix that up a little bit. Okay, so I hope this was clearer than mud, and I hope you were able to understand what I was trying to achieve. They are going to be gorgeous when they are dry and fully put together and all facing the right way. And I will be sharing more of these with you as we go along. Today is Tuesday, Techniques Tuesday. Tomorrow, I have another video out for tomorrow of some stock that I'm selling in the shop. And Thursday may be a Thrifty Canucks video because I have a lot of stuff piled up here. And then Friday will be my Happy Mail. I have two in the pile right now that have come in, and I will check through the week and then Friday do a big happy mail. So again, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm glad to be back and excited to get going with lots of new stuff this week. And I will tell you more as I go along. So that's it. That's all. I wish you all a very creative day and a creative week. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye for now.